You could be carrying parasites right now and never know it. Tapeworms, hookworms, pinworms, they don't always cause obvious symptoms, but they can quietly damage your gut, your blood, even your brain. That's the danger. Worms inside the human body aren't just some rare medical case from a textbook. They're a real issue doctors see more often than you'd think. And it's not limited to one corner of the world. Sure, developing countries deal with higher rates because of sanitation challenges, but even here in the US, people pick up worms from travel, pets, undercooked food, or simply not washing their hands at the right time. The problem is, parasites are masters at blending in. They don't always make you violently sick. Instead, they chip away at your health slowly, causing vague symptoms like tiredness, stomach discomfort, or skin irritation that most people dismiss. That's why today we're going to break this down. The hidden symptoms, the real dangers, and what you can do to prevent or treat them before they take a bigger toll on your body. Once inside, worms act like invisible tenants, quietly feeding off your body's resources. Roundworms sit in the intestines, absorbing vital nutrients like iron and protein, which can leave you constantly tired or weak even if your diet seems fine. Tapeworms are even more insidious. They can grow several feet long, coiled inside your gut, and sometimes live there for years without obvious symptoms, silently draining calories and essential vitamins. Hookworms take a different approach. They attach to the intestinal wall and feed directly on your blood, often leading to iron deficiency anemia if left untreated. Pinworms, on the other hand, may seem minor, but their nocturnal activity can cause intense anal itching, disrupt sleep, and even lead to bacterial infections from scratching. What makes worms so dangerous isn't just the physical damage. They can suppress the immune system, leaving you more vulnerable to colds, flu, or other infections. They can even affect mental clarity. Brain fog, irritability, and low energy are surprisingly common complaints among people with chronic infections. I've seen patients brush off these symptoms for months, assuming it was stress, diet, or age. By the time they realize the root cause, the worms have already multiplied. I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced unexplained fatigue, bloating, or skin irritation that could have been caused by something deeper? Or have you ever had a worm infection yourself or in your family? Drop your experiences in the comments. Sharing these stories helps everyone understand just how common and surprising these infections can be. The challenge with worms is that they rarely make a dramatic entrance. Instead, they show up through subtle, easily dismissed signs that most people chalk up to stress, diet, or fatigue, constant bloating, or stomach cramps. You might blame last night's dinner. Persistent tiredness, despite adequate sleep, people assume it's just work stress. Unexplained weight loss or, ironically, occasional weight gain can also be a clue, depending on the type of parasite. Other less obvious signs include itchy skin rashes, particularly around the anal or genital areas, and even teeth grinding at night. Pinworms are notorious for this. Some patients notice brittle nails, hair thinning, or dark circles under the eyes because worms rob the body of nutrients over time. Children may become unusually irritable or have trouble concentrating, which can easily be mistaken for behavioral issues or ADHD. Even mild digestive disturbances, occasional diarrhea, irregular bowel movements, or a lingering full feeling after meals can signal an ongoing infection. What makes it tricky is that these symptoms overlap with dozens of other conditions, so people often ignore them until they escalate. By then, the worms have often multiplied and are causing more serious health effects. Recognizing these subtle signals early can make a huge difference. Even minor symptoms can be a sign that your body is under siege from something invisible, quietly affecting energy levels, nutrient absorption, and overall well-being. One of the scariest things about worms is how easily they can enter your body without you noticing. Many infections happen through everyday habits we rarely think about. Undercooked meat and fish are major sources. Tapeworms in particular can hide in beef or pork if it isn't cooked properly. Even seemingly clean fruits and vegetables can carry microscopic eggs if they aren't washed thoroughly, especially if handled with contaminated water or soil. Walking barefoot in areas where the soil may be contaminated with fecal matter is another common pathway. Hookworms, for example, can pierce your skin and enter your bloodstream without you even feeling a thing. Children are especially vulnerable because they touch everything, often forget to wash their hands, and are more likely to play in soil or sand. Pets are another silent contributor. Dogs and cats can carry worms that transfer to humans through contact, whether it's petting them, cleaning litter boxes, or handling pet food. Travel adds another layer of risk. Consuming untreated water or street food in unfamiliar areas can introduce parasites you've never encountered before. The frightening part is that worm eggs are microscopic. You won't see them on your food, in water, or even on surfaces. By the time they hatch inside your body, the worms have already begun multiplying, often without causing immediate or obvious symptoms. It's a subtle invasion, but the health consequences can be significant if ignored. Leaving worms untreated is like letting a thief live in your home unnoticed. They quietly take what belongs to you, and over time the damage adds up. Most intestinal worms feed on your nutrients, which can leave you constantly fatigued, weak, or mentally foggy, even if your diet is balanced. Chronic infections often lead to anemia, protein deficiencies, or vitamin shortages, problems that can take months to reverse once identified. Some worms don't stop at the gut. Tapeworms, for example, can migrate to organs like the liver, lungs, or even the brain, causing severe complications such as seizures, organ inflammation, or neurological symptoms. Hookworms can cause persistent iron deficiency anemia, leaving people pale, lightheaded, and unusually short of breath. In children, prolonged infections stunt growth and delay cognitive development, often without anyone realizing the true cause. Worms can also create ongoing inflammation in the gut, weakening the immune system and making the body more susceptible to colds, flu, and other infections. Skin issues like rashes, itching, or eczema can appear because the body is reacting to toxins the worms release. I've seen patients come in complaining of fatigue, bloating, or unexplained stomach discomfort for months, completely unaware that worms were the culprit. By the time we diagnose the infection, the worms have often multiplied, making treatment more intensive. The key takeaway is simple. Ignoring subtle symptoms can turn a manageable infection into a serious, long-term health problem. Diagnosing worm infections isn't always straightforward because symptoms often mimic other conditions. Doctors usually start with a stool test. It's simple, non-invasive, and can detect most intestinal worms. In cases where parasites might have migrated beyond the gut, blood tests, imaging, or endoscopic examinations may be necessary. Some infections even require multiple tests because worms can lay eggs intermittently, meaning a single sample might miss them. Once confirmed, treatment is surprisingly effective. Medications like albendazole, mebendazole, or praziquantel target the worm's ability to survive, either killing them directly or preventing them from absorbing nutrients. For severe infections, treatment may be longer or require monitoring for organ damage or nutrient deficiencies. It's important to note that self-diagnosis and over-the-counter detox products are often unreliable. I've seen patients spend weeks on herbal cleanses that did nothing, while the worms continued silently multiplying. Proper medical guidance not only clears the infection, but also addresses complications like anemia, malnutrition, or inflammation that may have developed. Prevention and treatment go hand in hand. Doctors often recommend treating all family members and households where infections are found, and following strict hygiene and food safety practices. This dual approach ensures the worms are eliminated and reduces the risk of reinfection. The best way to deal with worms is to stop them before they ever enter your body. It starts with basic hygiene, but the details make all the difference. Wash fruits and vegetables thoroughly. Even organic produce can carry microscopic eggs from soil or contaminated water. Cooking meat and fish properly is critical. Undercooked pork or beef is a common way tapeworms enter the body. Hand hygiene is another major defense. Wash your hands after using the bathroom, before eating, and after handling pets or soil. Speaking of pets, regular deworming for dogs and cats is essential because they can silently transmit worms to humans. Always clean litter boxes carefully and avoid direct contact with pet feces. Footwear is also important. Walking barefoot in contaminated soil, sand, or even some playgrounds can allow hookworm larvae to penetrate the skin. When traveling, especially to countries with higher parasite prevalence, stick to bottled or treated water, and avoid street food that might not be cooked safely. Small habits make a huge difference. Even routine practices like changing bed linens regularly, keeping nails short and clean, and teaching children proper hand washing can dramatically reduce the risk. The takeaway is simple. Prevention isn't complicated, but it has to be consistent. These steps protect not just against worms, but a host of other infections that silently undermine your health. There are plenty of myths about worms that keep people from taking infections seriously, and believing them can be risky. One of the biggest misconceptions is that only children get worms. In reality, adults are just as vulnerable. Travel, pets, undercooked food, and even soil exposure mean anyone can be infected. I've seen adults with tapeworms who assumed it was just fatigue or digestive issues, and the diagnosis came much later than it should have. Another common myth: you'll always see worms if you have them. Many infections are completely invisible, with parasites hidden in the intestines or even other organs. People often dismiss subtle symptoms because they can't see the problem. Then there's the belief that herbal cleanses or natural remedies are enough to get rid of worms. Some herbs may help, but they rarely eliminate the infection fully, and relying on them alone can allow worms to multiply and cause serious health problems. Some people think hygiene isn't that important if they live in a modern city, but microscopic eggs are everywhere, on vegetables, in soil, on pets. Overlooking simple preventive measures is a common reason infections spread unnoticed. Understanding these myths is key. Once you know the truth, you can take effective action before worms silently compromise your health. If you found this breakdown helpful, subscribe to the channel for more.